So today I wanted to talk about the kind of idea of who we claim as our own and how we make that choice, right? Who we claim as our kin, as our own kind, and how we make that choice, or why we make that choice. Maybe we'll explore it a little. But I'll start with my own experience, just because that's all I have to present to you guys. But so when I was younger, I'm mixed race, and I was always kind of bouncing around between who looked like me, right? Because I'm like what they call ethnically ambiguous, right? Like I look like a lot of people, which means a lot of people think I look like them, no matter where they're from or what their actual background is. And that kind of changes how people interact with you, right? You can tell very clearly if you're interacting, even politely, with a stranger or interacting with somebody who sees you as family. Those are two different kind of energies, right, that you get in the world. And so I think it's interesting to think about how we choose.
I can't hear you. You're cutting in and out.
Oh, okay. Thank you for letting me know. Hold on one second. Let me see. Let's see. Can you hear me now? All right. Did I just make it better? Can you guys hear me? Awesome. It's okay. Okay. All right. Well, if it's an issue, let me know. Somebody say something. Okay, I'll start over. So I wanted to talk about who we claim and how. And so growing up mixed race, it was often very interesting to see who kind of treated me as a kid running around from their own, background or not. And so I think that when we find out first why we seek that claiming, it teaches us a lot. And then second, how we choose to claim teaches us a lot. So for first of all, why we seek that, right? I was a kid who grew up mixed race, grew up queer, grew up not knowing how to feel about gender. So I felt in between everything, right? Even in groups of friends, like I was just like, who is like me and what am I like was my big question for a long time. And so through that, I think I learned not to distinguish so much at first sight, right, between people. Because first of all, I didn't know what I was like. So I had no real steady rock that I was defending myself off against, right? Like, these are my people like me, I'll stick with them. Because I didn't know what like me was for a long time. So I didn't have that kind of rock to fight people off of. And then also, looking like you were related to me means a lot of things. Like, it does, you could look so many different ways. You could be on my mom's side, my dad's side, and even and then there's a bunch of variety. And then in being a Black person, right? Being Black looks like anything, because you could be from truly anywhere in the world and be shaped by whatever your parents could be, like from two different places and be Black. And so that's also something that I've been letting go of. There's one way to look like a Black person, one way to look like an Asian person, like a Filipino person, like whoever, one way to look like a race. That's something I've been trying to think about lately, especially with how many real repercussions there are in the world to looking certain ways, even though that doesn't always mean much that you look a certain way. And so I think growing up searching to be claimed was a lot of my like kid insecurity. It was like I wanted to be claimed by somebody, right? That's what a lot of us want, to feel like we belong somewhere. And so what is that feeling, that wanting to be claimed, right? It's wanting to be seen and immediately have that, oh, this person's my family, right? I'm safe here. This person recognizes me as their own, right? And as a kid, you learn that by how people treat you, right? And then you learn to treat people, XYZ, however you want. But then that turns into, when you're an adult, you're the people who claim, right? You're the people who claim, and that claiming has power. Who you treat as your own, who you interact with that same energy of, I would take care of you like my family. And so I think in shifting that focus to, okay, I've dealt with my own wanting to be claimed and then figured out how to claim myself, that whole, journey. But then what do I do with the people around me? How do I start to stop immediately classifying someone as me or not me, and us or them, and extend that you are my kin energy to everyone I meet, right? Because that changes how I feel, even if I'm not thinking that, like actively, right? If I'm in a family party, I'm always just casually thinking like, oh, let me take that plate for you. Let me play with a little cousin. Let me, whatever. There's that instinct of care is built into that setting, right? If it's a good family situation, but that hopefully on a good day, that instinct of care is built in there, right? And so I think we can learn to take that out of our private sphere and build that into our public sphere, right? Stop making that sphere distinction so much, right? Because it comes out of the wanting to have your own tribe is fair and valid, and the wanting for safety and consistency makes sense. But shedding the fear of what doesn't immediately look like you, I think can radically shift the way that we just live in the world, right? If our instinct is not defense or offense, right? It's just, let me see what the situation is, right? Let me take a pause, take a breath, kind of give this person space to present themselves if it's a stranger, rather than me present their personality with everything I think it might be and then find the differences, right? A lot of the time, I think getting to know people for us is retroactive, right? We make up a personality, and we have this like myth of the person, and then we meet them, and as we get to know them better, we like shed our preconceptions. So we're doing a lot of work there. And I think obviously I think everybody kind of operates in that sphere, but we can work slowly to make it so we're meeting a person, learning about them, and not having to unlearn, right? We're just learning new things. We're just letting them expand as themselves in our lives, in our minds, in our perceptions of the world. And I think through that, we shed a lot of distance that we put in between us, right? We shed a lot of the hurdles that we put in place to care for each other, right? When we do mutual aid right now, mutual aid on the internet is huge because a lot of people are going through a lot of hard things. And so there are groups that are taking care of each other, taking care of their own, and that's necessary. But what happens like if we succeed in taking care of our own? Then what do? Do we go back into defense because now we have a stable, like, okay, we got this community, okay, now let's defend it? Or can we shift from, okay, my family's safe. What if my family was bigger, right? Without, actually having a bigger family. Like, what if I expanded my notion of that and we just spread that? I don't know. It's something I've been thinking about lately a lot. And I think it's important to play in the imagination of what a new world would look like if you could structure it, because once progress comes, then something has to be after it. We can't just backslide to our old power dynamics with a new shift, right? Then we just repeat ourselves. And we've been doing that. We know humans have just repeated themselves. We've had wars since we started, and we're still having wars. So that's a bit of, I don't know, thoughts from the week on what might happen after. What if there was not war? So thank you all for listening as always. I appreciate it. Okay, so you can come off mute if you'd like to. I'll unmute those who I